Civilization has very balanced combat, in the same way that I have very good driving skills. That is to say, it took 25 years to even really start trying, and by that point, expectations were so low that we were all willing to overlook a few things. Over the years, we've seen some needlessly busted units, and I wanted to take some time to celebrate them. Now, the operative word here is needlessly. Many units are strong, but it's understandable why they made the mistake that they did, or they serve an important role in the game's design. We're not going to count those. Damn, I'm going to need a new list. The focus is on the what the fuck factor, when the designers just threw common sense out the window and blessed us with something truly deranged. No unique units, just the base units. Let's see what they have in store for us. For spot number 6, we're going to have to go back to the place where the world began. Or at least, the place where my world began. At the top of our list will be the Chariot from Civ 1. Now, this was both the first game in the franchise and one of the first 4X computer games ever, so I can't place this any lower. But let me tell you why it belongs on this list. Chariots require the wheel. You can research the wheel at the start of the game, and there are no strategic resources in Civ 1. I mean, horses do exist, but they're there for vibes only. You do not need horses to build chariots. There's also just not a lot of units. Here is every other unit in Civ 1. Here is the chariot. Do you notice anything? It's expensive. I mean, just ask Charlton Heston if you don't believe chariots are pricey. But who cares? Not only does it dominate units of its era, it can just about coin flip into every single unit in the game. A veteran chariot on attack will beat a regular tank more often than not if there's no defense bonus involved. And to stress this, it is available immediately. Just research one thing and then you can turn off your tech to save money. Civ 1 has gold rushing, so you can use the money that you save and invest it into your infrastructure and improve the lives of your... No, I'm just messing with you. You're gonna buy more chariots. Now, I think I can kind of tell what they were thinking with this. They didn't understand the importance of mobility, that if you prioritize building these, you can just roll the whole map. I think they compared it to the knight and thought, well, the knight is just strictly better. But you also have to consider the state that the game is in at the time when the unit in question is unlocked. At the point where you have chariots, it's much less likely that the defender has dropped 120 shields into walls. And at this point, defensive strength on a mobile unit is just not that important. You can position them on mountains or hills 2 tiles away. If a slow unit like a legion walked up and attacked you, they would need to take a combat penalty because moving across roads, they would only have fractional movement left. The enemy can't really intercept you, you almost always get to strike first. And if you somehow start the turn next to their city, you can attack twice, because all units in Civ 1 have Blitz. Units also don't take damage, so there's no need to stop and heal. This unit is just busted. Spot number 5 on the list goes to frigates from Civ 5. These things are just absolute bullies. You assemble a bunch of them, and then you just haul ass to the other side of the map, and go take whatever coastal city you want. Their bombard is very strong, you can upgrade galleasses into them, they have a range of 2, meaning they can laser beam stuff that's not even coastal. They are unique in the ability to just 360 no-scope someone from the other side of the world. And culture flipping, loyalty flipping is not really much of a thing in Civ 5, so you get to keep what you take. Frigates don't really have an effective counter, except for other frigates. And they upgrade to battleships, so your investment is not going to go obsolete. Now, Civ 5 did overhaul combat, and naval units in general, so it makes sense that the balance wouldn't be perfect. But still, this is such a rookie mistake, because the only way to build naval units is to have coastal cities. You can't counter this strategy without making yourself super vulnerable to it. It would be like if you had to slather yourself in honey to buy bear traps. If you can see the bears, it's probably too late, and you should just play dead. The strategy is a bit map dependent, but for sure, it belongs on the list. Spot number 4 is the Needle Jet. Another mobile unit. You're going to see a pattern today. Typically, overpowered units either have high movement or high range. And yes, I'm counting Alpha Centauri as a Civ game. It's important to be nice to the Alpha Centauri fans. They've been through a lot. A little less than halfway through the tech tree, you unlock Doctrine Air Power. Once you get fusion reactors, air units are actually really cheap, too. Needle Jets have 8 movement, very high attack, ignore enemy zone of control, and most land units in the game cannot attack them. You just get to walk in, one-shot their best defender, and then hang out on their roads for a turn before you need to refuel. Just hovering there, menacingly. And they have Zone of Control. You can just block defenders from getting into the city. It really feels like chess, and your girlfriend or boyfriend's cat just walks in the room and starts knocking pieces off the board. This is my emotional support needle jet. You can pick up your pieces, but the spray bottle is off limits. If you don't have the tech for air interceptors, you feel really helpless. The redeeming factor here is that they need to refuel, and also they can't take cities by themselves. They can pick you to pieces, but the enemy will actually need boots on the ground to start taking cities. For the third spot on the list, we're going to take a look at Civ 4. In Civ 4, upgrades are fantastic. They are reasonably cheap, only 3 gold per hammer. They let you keep your promotions, they let you start stacking well before you unlock the power spike tech, and upgrades also allow you to convert gold into hammers in a way that isn't usually otherwise possible. This isn't like most games of Civ. Civ 4 is more like living under communism. You can't just buy things. I mean, technically you could if your society had universal suffrage, but we all know that historically that hasn't been the case. If Civ 4 is communism, then upgrading units is like buying bootleg jeans off the black market. What's the point of being a wealthy, powerful nation if you can't flex a little? So, upgrades are great in Civ 4, and mounted units upgrade to the Cuirassier. This is a beefy unit, and in Civ 4, with the maps being so small, 2 movement is great mobility. Longbowmen and pikemen kind of work well to defend against them, but really, if you follow the golden rule of stack-based combat, you'll be able to mop the floor using these things. All of these factors would make the Cuirassier an appropriate choice for a spot earlier in this video. However, that is not the unit that we're talking about today. Spot number 3 goes to Cavalry in Civ 4. Everything I said about the Cuirassier is also true about Cavalry. But, before the release of Beyond the Sword, this unit did not require rifling. The Cuirassier rush is very effective on the current patch. In earlier versions of Civ 4, Cavalry were available at the exact same location on the tech tree, so you got this massive increase in retreat chance, and in raw power, without any additional requirements aside from needing more shields. Remember when I said longbowmen and pikemen might give you trouble? They have 6 power. Cavalry have 15 power. This is insane. I don't know how this made the cut. Let's check out number 2. The most powerful unit in Civilization 3 is artillery. But I don't think that this is needless. It's an understated unit. I could see how it might fly under the radar a bit, and a lot of its power comes from the combination with railroads. And they're supposed to simulate the grinding sort of trench warfare from World War I. Something in the game has to be the best, and while this unit certainly does so in an extreme fashion, it doesn't make me question the decision-making of the game designers. The bomber, however, does. This unit was a bit weak in Vanilla Civ 3. In the Conquest expansion, it got a ridiculous series of buffs. Sulla was a beta tester for Civ 3 Conquests. He explained the development process and the motivations of the developers on his website. And despite devoting 3 of his top 10 points to the subject, I think he undersells how absurd a change this was. Let's go through point by point. If you open the Play the World editor from before the final expansion, you can see this all for yourself. The bomber was given lethal sea bombard, so it can kill sea units. It was given lethal land bombard. It had its range increased from 6 to 10. Sulla describes this as doubled, but in terms of the number of tiles that you can reach, the number is actually more than twice as much with the new range. Then, the bomber was just flat out given 50% more bombard power, and additionally they added craters, which let you turn the enemy's land into the surface of the moon. And not like the fun moon from that French movie, the bad part of the moon. Close enough. These are all massive buffs that have a multiplicative effect on each other. All in all, they took a usable unit and made it 3 or 4 times better. I don't know how you could possibly look at this and think that this wouldn't fuck the game. Based on Sulla's account, it just seems like they didn't care, and it's a miracle that Civ 3 turned out to be as good as it did. But at least the bomber is not available until the game is almost over, which is not something that you can say about our number 1 unit on the list. A quick runner-up before we get to the end, Horsemen from Civ 6. Now, I was told when making this video that mounted units used to be better in combat versus cities. I couldn't find receipts for this. If that's not how it used to be, this one isn't particularly egregious. But on the current patch, they are a strong unit. You can blitz the enemy with them and take a few cities. If the enemy doesn't have walls, this is the quickest way to run them over. And if they do have walls, well, a horse cannot use a battering ram or a siege tower. Although, I would like to see them try. Anyway, the number one unit is, of course, the Diplomat and Spy from Civ 2. Now, Diplomats did exist in Civ 1, and I could get into all the nitty-gritty differences, or maybe give them their own spot on this list, but let's just say that they had an entire game development cycle worth of experience on this class of unit, and they still produced something absolutely broken. In fact, they made it worse. Spies in Civ 2 have an additional point of movement, extra vision, and get access to additional missions like nuclear terrorism. They can do a bunch of things, but let's talk about the especially notable ones. Bribing is essential in a game where there's zone of control, and borders don't exist, let alone get respected by AI unit pathing. If a unit is causing problems, just buy it. Diplomats are a lot like my landlord. They solve all my problems by spending a shockingly small amount of money, and sometimes they don't even bother paying maintenance on things that they buy. Given that maintenance costs are the one thing that is constantly crippling your economy in Civ 2, this is a really useful perk. Next is stealing techs. Just BTW, every single mission has a 100% success rate. These spies and diplomats must be absolutely godlike at their jobs. No, he gets lucky pretty often. Yeah, more like them. So you just walk up to a city and you get a free tech. You can do this at peace, and if the enemy catches your diplomat or spy, it just gets sent back to your own land. The only real restriction is that you can only do this once per city, but you can use enemy roads and railroads, so you can get pretty far with these. The last thing that spies and diplomats can do is buy cities. You can buy any city except for their capital. You get every single unit inside, you get their wonders, you get a free technology, because why the heck not? This is just not an ability you should have unconditional access to, and it's pretty damn cheap. Spy jobs can cause international incidents, but these are basically irrelevant if you have the Statue of Liberty. If you didn't build that wonder, don't worry, you can just buy the city that it's in with your spy. All in all, spies give you a pain-free way to close out games by just throwing money at the problem. I mean, I love it, but there's absolutely no reason for them to work the way that they do, and it hasn't returned in any game since. But you know what they say, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Alright, that's it. Did I miss anything big here? Let me know in the comments if there's some terribly OP unit from Call to Power or Civ Revolutions or something. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.